So today we're going to talk about everything PhD. Today we're joined by Dr. Jessica Kong, academic study advisor at UK University, to hear about her insights into careers after undergraduate studies from master's and onto PhD. So from questions like who should consider doing PhD, what are some of the application processes like, and how the PhD experiences were like, and how also the cost effectiveness of PhD study. So because my shot was not recorded in the Zoom, so I'm going to do this intro and then we'll dive into the real meaty part of the interview. By the way, this interview was just filled with so many good insights. I am so thankful that Jessica agreed to do this interview. So special thanks to Jessica once again. And yeah, I really hope that this will be a treasure chest for all of you who are considering continuing PhDs. So let's begin. So as part of our career development series, today we're joined by Dr. Jessica Kong, academic study advisor at UK University, to hear about her insights into career after undergraduate studies from master's and onto even PhD, and how these academic experiences might impact not only her professional career, but also in terms of her personal growth and development. So Dr. Kong, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Sammy.
So just briefly to our viewers, could you introduce us to your undergrad major, your master's, your PhD, like what you did?
Of course. In my undergraduate studies, I have chosen journalism and communications, and I'm a very loyal person. So for my master's degree, I go for communications. It was a research master. And with a PhD, again, is media and communications. So communications in one track.
Wow, so communications expert right there. But I also know that you're an amazing pianist, which we will talk about soon. But I also want to start off with this question, like what made you pursue further education after your undergraduate studies?
Thanks for the question. I think in my perspective, life is always very interesting. And my answer to that is I'm always being guided by my passion to follow my own heart. But what I meant by following my own heart is not referring to a static job or just a particular interest, because I see passion as something relatively constant, but it could be expressed and explored in different ways. So I'm a very sonic person. I love music. Even since a very young age, I express better, emotionally speaking, through the piano music rather than a spoken language, I think, most of the time. So yeah, I see music as a very big part of me. So after my undergraduate study, I went into the radio station to start working. That seems very obvious, isn't it? Like the radio is all about music and sound. And I was hosting music programs back then to use voiceover to narrate different stories, different narratives, or to interview people in order to connect with my audience using sound. So it was a very enjoyable job, actually, to me. But at some point, I start to feel like, oh, things are a bit repetitive. You follow the same structure every day. I'm not saying the content is not creative, but the way you produce something could be relatively technical from time to time. And also there are organizational and structural constraints that you may not be able to express what you really want to express. And I realized I want to go for something deeper, not just producing something following a menu. And I start considering, why not going back to academia? Because we all know academia could go really deep, which is another side of a coin. And I also reflect on my experience when doing my undergraduate study is that I always loved those theoretical courses like mass communication theories, critical communication theories. I just like them all. So I know I like diving in the literature. And I said earlier that my passion is always about sound and music, and I firmly believe that music is not just found in a concert hall, it has a role in society. For example, when I start participating in protests, music and sound are always everywhere. For example, when I'm chanting with other participants, I can feel like, oh, we're really together in this. I'm so uplifted.
Yeah.
Or another example, when I'm shopping in a mall, for example, when the music is nice, I feel like, oh, I really want to buy more, you know. So that's really my experience and how sonically sensitive I am. And yeah, I start wanting to explore this further. Why would music touches people's heart? What happened in that particular moment? So I went back to university to explore this. I did a research master. My master's thesis was the emotionality of protest music. And yeah, that was why I went back to academia from undergraduate and master's research. And then after my master's degree, I feel like I want to continue that because in my master's thesis, I focused on the emotional and affective side of music. But emotionality and rationality should not be in contradiction. We're human beings. We experience emotions as well as different kind of thoughts, and we analyze different situations depending on the context. So rationality should not be something in contradiction. I want to explore that further. And secondly, not only music, sound is also everywhere. Like in a protest, human voices, the use of music, and the anti-protesting voices as well. They are all coming together. So I want to explore this further, and therefore it leads me to my doctoral research. So I would say, long story short, is I'm always being guided by my passion. I always want to follow my heart, but it doesn't mean that it's not challenging. There are all kinds of challenges.
Yes.
But I like to follow my heart because that is who I am. And secondly, what I would say is there are different ways to express and explore your passion. I mentioned my passion is about music and sound. There are different ways to do it, actually. For example, I can be a pianist, go for purely performance track, or a healthcare setting for clinical purposes. For clinical purposes, what music could do, for example. But also the sociology of music, the cultural aspect of music, with different elements that could be explored from different angles. So, but for me, it's always grounded in this passion.
That is amazing. You have decided to just solely follow your passion, and that's why you got into academia even after your professional journey in the radio station. So here's some quick questions. What do you think are some of the major differences between master study and PhD studies?
For master studies, I would say it's more like an opportunity for me to really understand different approaches in the literature, and also is a good training for my critical thinking ability. And for PhD studies, you have your own research idea. But this time, how you argue is not only depending on the literature you're reading, but also the data you collect yourself. I see the PhD journey as a really independent journey because you ask your research question and then you collect data and find the literature to answer it. So it's really you, it's about you, your own project. So in short, masters, I think it's more like it provides you the training. And for PhD, you really use it. And it is unique because it's your own project. You ask your own question, and you distribute, or you have yourself engaged in the scholarly debate.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting how you said PhD is a real sort of like a self-exploration. So before we get into the whole practical part of like how the application process is like for a master's and PhD, I also wanted to ask you how, depending on the region all around the world, like in Europe, for example, or especially in the UK, PhD studies usually last from 3 to 4 years. And in North America, for example, it's usually 5 to as long as 8 years. For my own advisor, it took her 8 years. So it's a very long investment of time and efforts. What are some of the factors should one consider if one wants to pursue or think about pursuing master's and PhD?
Mm-hmm. I think I would start with considerations for doing a PhD. First, again, it's a very boring answer because I'm going to tell you it's about passion again. Firstly,
but it's a very important one. Yeah,
thanks. Know what you want is really important. But secondly, don't stop there. Consider what kind of aspects you could explore from this passion. I mentioned earlier in my case that different perspective, performance, and healthcare setting, radio, maybe, media production, academia, PhD. Reflect on your own personality. Which one do you suit better? Which one you really like the most? Because a PhD is not for everybody. Being a performer is also not for everybody. You only choose the way that suits you the most. I would suggest that. According to the best knowledge of yours. Because doing a PhD is more like a long journey, it's a slow process. You need to think, you need to reflect from time to time, and it won't be a direct, immediate, rewarding result. It is not like, okay, after 3 months, you have the result and you get really satisfied about it. Mm-hmm. It is more like, oh, okay, I have to wait for maybe really a year in order to generate something. And that something may not be certain neither. So are you the kind of person who like this kind of low progressing challenge? And also reflect on your past learning experience. Do you like theoretical discussion? Because I'm quite sure in undergraduate studies or even back in schools, you have experience of different courses or modules. Some are more practical than others. Some are more theoretically dense. Which one do you like more? If you really like those theoretically dense modules, maybe you could consider that. Also, try the experience of it. Maybe just set 2 weeks or so, try to read more on the literature that you're interested in, the really dense one, and the theoretical ones, not just the empirical studies. And also try to attend conferences to see if that is something you would like to participate in. And don't force yourself into a task because you think it is going to be great in terms of the outcome. Because you can't guarantee anything. We can't as human beings. But if you enjoy the experience, it will lead you further. So try it first. Be honest with your own feeling and experience. You know better whether you enjoy that or not, right? So try it first. Have an experience of a so-called PhD life and talk to people, engage with people who are doing one, because you're going to really engage with those community or those people in that community for more than 4 years. So you will be one of them, actually. See if you like them. Because if you don't like them, consider whether you really want to be them, So consider that. really understand what doing a PhD is. Try to experience it, have some piloting experience, as we say, as researchers. And thirdly, reflect on your own personality and also your other commitments in life, because studying or doing a PhD or even career development is just one side of life, if you ask me. It could be your core part, but it's not the whole you. You are who you are, but not a PhD, you know. So reflect on your family commitment, your financial status, personal relationship, or other concerns in relation to study, to see if it is something that you want during that time.
Jessica, this is incredible. Really need to think deeply about before they consider even, applying for a PhD, because there are so many different aspects. You mentioned family, financials, personal relationships, and your passion of the research topic. These are really, really important ones that not many people talk about. So I'm really thankful that you have shared this insight with us, and also a low progressing challenge. And I think that's also a very important topic for many millennials or so-called Gen Zs lately, because this culture that we're living in, we're always thinking about the cost effectiveness. If I put this much effort, this much time, what kind of result am I going to yield? That's the kind of question that I very often get from prospective students as well. And
I'm afraid I may not be the best person who are capable to comment on this, because I really don't see it that way. I mean, in general, as a person, I tend to not to wait too much on the outcome, because according to my personal life experience, my prediction is always wrong, so it's just I'm not very good at it, probably. So I can't think too much of the outcome, and I'm only responsible in terms of making the decision. But of course, I understand when you need to evaluate, you think of the outcome as well. So I suggest that maybe you really reflect on what kind of outcome you really have been expecting after the study. If your outcome, your expected effectiveness or outcome is really tangible, something like you want to get a particular academic position in a university, if you're really keen on it, then maybe that is the way. But also try to analyze or try to weigh how competitive it may be. But I would say doing a PhD or doing a master is really not the kind of professional qualifications like you do a legal studies degree or you do a medical degree, and after that you earn a license, and then you go into the industry. But I would also say, like, nothing is for certain. Even people who have got the license or the qualifications, they may want to go for further professional specification in terms of within that profession, and maybe there are also limited spaces as well. That is just the nature of society, I would say. But yeah, think carefully. If you really have that mindset, think, doing a PhD or doing a master, is that the only way that you can get there? Is there any other way? Work experience, or if you are really responding to your passion, maybe there are other ways, like starting up your own project, or work with somebody else for social enterprise. I don't know, I'm just thinking aloud. But the point is, if you really want, or if you really think in terms of cost effectiveness, think of the tangible outcome, that what you are looking for, and is the degree the only way to pursue it? But secondly, if you ask me, I really won't see it that way, because according to my own experience, I learned a lot from the process. And of course, maybe in the beginning, I also thought, okay, maybe after degree, I could work in a university. Of course, you need some future aspiration if that is something you want. but I didn't really stick to that. And I also think, like, personally speaking, I'm a person who like experience and who like to spend time with people, or who like to spend time with things that I like. And it is really about the reflection process. If you ask me, even in the case of reading an article or in the process of note-taking, to be honest, sometimes I won't even look at what I have written for the lecture on my notes, because it's really not the note that matters. They are really, really messy, to be honest. But it was the note-taking process that helped me to reflect, and I know better of my own opinion in relation to that particular topic. And when you reflect, the opinion becomes part of you. And I would also say, if that is part of you, you will never lose it, you know? It's you, basically. So I would say learning as well, even if you do a PhD or you do a master, if you nurture your thought, your opinion, or the way you think in this process, it is part of you. How you analyze, how you see the world. And it will be forever yours. You don't need a paper, you don't need a certificate to demonstrate that you have that ability. You don't need a paper or a certificate to say that, yeah, I have a master's or PhD in something. You have that qualities in you, you know. And those skills, those trainings would definitely lead you to the next place you need to be.
What can you advise to people who want to pursue PhD? Or shall we start with masters? How would you like to do it?
Maybe we could start with PhD first.
Sure. Yeah.
You mean practicality, right?
Yeah.
So for PhD applications, I would see the process in 4 different stages. But again, first things first, to me, it's always about passion. Really know what you want in a specific way. Again, my example is sound and music. Know in particular what aspect you are interested in. Like in my case, cultural studies, it could be about meaning of music. What is the role of music in creating the ideologies? That could be from a cultural studies perspective, but from a political science perspective, it could be quite different. It's about power relations. And from a clinical setting, again, it could be about what music could do to help patients, for example. So it could be entirely different, or like from a musicology perspective, or from an ethnomusicology perspective, you know, like it's just a lot of options there. Know what you want is truly, truly important. And then also understand that the options are everywhere. Don't just stick to one program that you know. Try to explore it. So that will be the second stage. Do the research. Research on the area that you're interested in. Try to identify the university affiliation of the scholars that you are always being inspired by their work. Yeah, and don't limit yourself if you don't have those considerations to just one place. Maybe different programs, different universities, even different countries or cultures. And then try to organize your thought and your research. I always recommend it is that you draw maybe 3 to 4 columns on a blank document. The first column could be, the keywords of your research interest. You can have more than one, like in the beginning, but I don't suggest you have a very big difference like among them, because I don't think it will work eventually, because when you really like something, you really know what you want, you know. That is how I see it, at least. And the second column could be the affiliated university or the name of the program. Make sure that you have written down these scholars and email address, contact information as well. And the third column will be the deadlines. You have to know when you need to submit it. And the fourth column could be just your thoughts and questions and comments. You can write whatever you like. But again, those column of notes will be the column I mentioned earlier. I don't really care at the end of the day what I have written, but it is about how I document my thoughts. And you can always go back to there to know, oh, okay, eventually I've made that decision. I didn't go for that program because of this consideration. You know your thinking process, basically. So know your passion and then do your research. And then the third stage, I would say, is communication. Now you have your note. Try to talk to the people who are inside the community, maybe students who are already studying there, or even the faculty members, because if you're really interested in it, think in this way. If you're really interested in it, you will want to talk to the people who are also interested in that, you know. And the other person will also be very intrigued to talk to you about it. So see it as a communication process, not just you're knocking the door to ask for something, you know. Of course, there's one dimension to see it that way, but I also think, and I also encourage you, especially young students, to have more confidence in yourself. You know what you're offering. You know your own potential, though you are not there yet, maybe, from a societal perspective, but you know you have a lot that you can offer. So communicate with them. If they didn't reply, that's fine. It's not your fault. Maybe they are busy. You don't need to guess the reason. Just let it go and approach another person. And if they start a conversation with you, engage with it. Try to see if that is what you want, you have expected. Or try to move your project forward. Make good use of the conversation. That is the third stage, communication. And the fourth stage will be planning and writing. So that is the practical part. For planning, I suggest that you lay out your monthly calendars and you mark all the deadlines on it. And you count backward in terms of how many weeks you need or how many days you need in order to intensively work on that application. But I would also suggest a continuous approach, actually, aside from that intensive period of time. I realized before the deadline, maybe you want to devote a little bit more time intensively for that particular application. But I suggest that maybe if you're really keen on it, even half a year prior to those application deadline period, you start devoting maybe 1 to 2 hours per week to do the research, and depending on the stages you are in, maybe you do the research and then you start communicate with the people who are within that community circle, within that circle. Have a continuous approach. I think it's good in the sense that you know better why you want to make that particular decision. And just personally speaking, I'm not a deadline fighter. I really can't manage it. I would definitely start early and work on it slowly. That's why I did a PhD, maybe you can tell. And then when you start writing, have some time planned before your submission to discuss with your friends or have your teacher to take a look at the application for you, if that's possible. Because I think, according to my experience, I get a lot of help from my friends, and I can't make it without them. No matter my PhD writing up or my job application, they really train me like a devil trains. I really thank them for that. Like they really time me. Like, oh, that's too long. No, we have to cut in that. Or, no, you can't write like that. That sentence too long. You know, I really need it, and I think I really appreciate that that interaction a lot as well. So have some time before your submission to talk to your friends, to talk to friends that you think they could provide help to you, not only in terms of practicality, but also emotionally speaking, because you don't want to get additional stress and panic before yourself. I'm not saying that, well, don't talk to people that makes you worry, because they could still be very caring and still can be your friends. But I'm saying, according to my experience, I have to be sensitive of my own emotions, because if you are experiencing stress before your submission, you need to take care of yourself as well.
Yes.
You can say to your friends, I see your point, but maybe we talk tomorrow, you know? You're not rejecting them, but you're just taking yourself out from that space just for a while.
Yeah.
The process could be quite
intense.
Yeah, it's intense, and you have to consider a lot of factors. Like you need to communicate with people who you already knew, and also people you don't know yet. But it's really like part of the PhD, if you ask me. You always encounter new people. You always have to manage different deadlines. So yeah, it's part of the process.
That was an incredible 4-stage PhD prep guide we should publish, because that was so thorough and so detailed. No wonder why you are such an incredible person to help out and support students. This was exactly the kind of plan that I had also while I was applying for my own PhD programs. So it's really interesting to hear like what you can suggest as an expert. So thanks so much for sharing that with us. There are 2 more questions that I wanted to ask you. What were some of the things that you never knew until you put your foot in the PhD studies?
Yeah, it's actually quite a lot. As I said, it's full of surprises. In short, firstly, doing a PhD is always a work in progress. It's a never-ending process, though I finish it now, but it's really never end, if you ask me. It's very different from doing undergraduate and master, because back then I feel like, yeah, I devoted all my time or the best of my effort, and it's done. And I'm quite happy about the work. And you get your grade, and it's really done, you know. With a PhD, no matter in your first year or even after you have submitted, it's always like, yeah, it can be better, you know. And also, you receive comments from other people. You receive feedback from other people. So yeah, it's always a work in progress. It's never ending, because it could always be better. When you read something new, you feel like, oh, I should have considered that perspective.
Yeah.
Or after you encountered some people who also share similar research interests, you feel like, oh, wow, that is really insightful. You know, I should have included that. Or after you submit your work to your supervisors, you have lots of feedback and comments. You feel like, okay, great, now the work really begins. But after that, you have another cycle of those, you know. So it's really a never-ending process. So yeah, in my case, I just published my thesis, which means it's online now. But the thing is, I look into it again. Oh, and I realized there are a lot of holes and typos, you know. So it's more like, okay, I will go back to it to refine it, but to publish it in another channel maybe. But it is like a mentality. Actually, it's a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. But there's also beauty in it, though it's messy, which is, it is always in development. And personally speaking, I think it is really what the social reality is about, or what truth is about. I don't know if I've mentioned, because to me, doing a PhD or as a researcher is to explore the reality or get closer to it from the perspective that I'm interested in. So it is not static. It will never be. If not, it is not what the world is about. So there's always an opportunity for you to refine your work or to make a new argument. You can also counter your own argument that you have written before and raise a new one. So that's the beauty of it, I think. It is really an independent journey. Though you have your supervisors, you have your friends, you have your colleagues, but at the end of the day, you have to make all the decisions. You know the best of your own argument and your thesis. And I really treasure this process because it is through this 4 years, I really learned how to value my own opinion I know my own reasoning. One of the biggest takeaway for me is there's no right or wrong answers. There's no good or bad. It depends on how you see it. And it also depends on the level of strength of your argument. It's just that. Personally speaking, it also helped me to empathize a little bit more of other people, because you never know where they are coming from. To see the world or see different people in their own perspective, or from a perspective that is not within my world, is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. Mm-hmm. And one very last thing, maybe it's relatively personal, but I think I really treasure it, is that I didn't know I can be that strong. It is really after these 4 years of training, I realized I am really stronger than I thought, in every way, not just intellectually.
You know what, Jessica? My computer screen, the background screen also says you are so much stronger than you think.
Oh, amazing. Such a great coincidence. You see, this kind of message is really true. I mean, like, really in every way, not just intellectually speaking, but personally speaking, in your personal life. How you deal with different challenges. We mentioned financial challenges, your own emotional challenges as well. For my case, I wrote up my thesis in a pandemic as well. So, like, you have different kind of considerations. How to manage communications with different people, relationships, family. Yeah, everything really. But again, I see it as part of your life. The PhD is not you. Of course, it's a big part if you're doing a PhD, but it's not you. It's part of it. But the training itself, no matter on a professional level, academic level, or in terms of your personal development, I really treasure it. I won't trade it for anything, because it really, yeah, it helps. It helps me to value my own opinion and know better of who I truly am.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing to hear from your own personal experiences what it was like to go through all the struggles and go explore yourself through this very long, rigorous duration of studies. But absolutely fantastic to get all the nuts and bolts and nuggets of wisdoms everywhere from all these questions. So thank you so much. Do you have any final last words that you'd like to share with our viewers, maybe?
I think you have put it very well, Simi. Maybe just one last thing is, if you're struggling right now, I really hope that you won't give up. Reflect on who you are, what you really want. And also, if you're doing something that you really don't like, but you have to do it for some reasons, I suggest that you break the task down into smaller size, one step at a time, or like into smaller time chunks. Like maybe 45 minutes, one section, you do it and then you take a break. Or yeah, just to make it easier for yourself, no matter what the task is. Yes, secondly, even if you don't like the task that you're doing, but you have to do it, do your best. Try to make the best, or try to make the best for that experience and take the most out from that. Because if you give your heart, if you give your effort, the work is there. And at the right time, the right person will see it, and your door will, or your opportunity will come. Because I realize for a lot of people, maybe it may not be the first year that you apply for something, and no matter master's application, PhD application, or even a job application, but you try your best, you give the best you can, you put the work out there. Some days, if they are of good quality, the right person will see it. And also, do little things that make you happy. You will survive it. We all can, because you reflect on your past experience. You know, you can do this. Yeah, basically that.
Amazing. I think what inspired me just right there is the grit. No matter what happens, no matter what the outcomes are, if you're passionate, just keep going, keep on swimming. Just like was it the movie Nemo, Finding Nemo? Yeah.
Keep on swimming, but have a direction. You know,
Yeah.
in a deep sea water.
That is very important. Yeah. Dr. Kong, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm sure our viewers really learned a lot from all the insights that you have shared with us. So thank you so much for your insights today.
Thanks very much, Singh. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed this very much.
We're doing this again. And I can't believe that we're doing this again. I'm definitely gonna have to mention this in the video that we have done this twice, so that we have really perfected our content.